So I know a lot of black people are not going to like this, but he breaks down. I mean, we always complain, blacks always complain about everybody stealing our culture, but we rarely talk about how we steal Asian people's culture, especially Japanese culture and things like that. We'll see what he has to say.
Ooh, I hope y'all don't get mad at me for this one. I see a lot of conversations in the black community about the appropriation of black culture by Asian people, which, good. But what I don't see, like at all, which I feel like I should, are conversations about the ways that black people consume Asian culture. Especially considering how vocally some black people use these conversations about appropriation to criticize Asian people for their consumption of black culture in general. Like, how many other black people do y'all know that love watching anime and martial arts movies? I mean, like, how many black artists do you know who have based their visual styles off the aesthetics of anime and manga?
Before he even goes into all that, my father is like around 60 something years old. You know what I'm saying? They were watching in the 80s, the 70s, and 80s. You see Bruce Lee in the back. Bruce Lee's right here in the back. One of my dad's biggest influences, or my whole life, my dad has talked about how amazing Bruce Lee was. Yeah, but no one's like Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee this and Bruce Lee that. My dad was always talking about Bruce Lee. You see what I'm saying? And that's very true. It's not just this generation that glorifies, for lack of better words, that glorifies the Asian culture. It's the older generation too. It's our generation and the older generation. It's been going on for a long time. So we can't get mad if Asians try to appropriate our culture if we the ones appropriating their culture too. We don't never say nothing about that. It's always us as the victims as black people. It's always us. And yes, we are victims. But we need to call a spade a spade. We be stealing their culture too. We be stealing Asian people's culture too, bro. Let's just call it. I hate when people don't try to have no accountability.
We all love the Boondocks, unambiguously inspired by Asian pop culture. Not to mention the frequency with which black musicians use Asian aesthetics to enhance their own platforms.
Wow.
Starting all the way at the beginning of hip hop with Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, moving into the people like the Wu-Tang Clan, all the way up into the modern era with Kung Fu Kenny. Then there's artists like Rihanna and Lizzo and Nicki Minaj, who have all used various Asian cultures as the aesthetic inspiration behind their music videos and photo shoot.
But no one ever says anything about that. You see what I'm saying? When we use Asian culture, no one says anything. But as soon as people use black culture, we got a problem with it, and we should have a problem with it because it's our culture. It's our culture, and everybody else doing our culture. But my thing is, show the Asian culture respect. If we're gonna take if us blacks are gonna take Asian people's culture, show them the respect due. Let's say, hey, look, y'all, look, we love y'all style, we love y'all culture, and we want to let you know. Is it okay if we do it? You know what I'm saying? And probably the Asian culture be like, cool. Can we do y'all culture? I want us as people to be able to get along with each other. We don't have to marry each other. We don't have to do all these different types of things. But as long as we get along with each other, you see what I'm saying? If I don't, I don't want blacks acting like we're the only ones that people appropriate our culture when the world definitely does it to Asians. It's not just blacks that appropriate Asian culture. It's whites too. It's a lot of people.
Not always tastefully, I might add. And also the weird fetishization and stereotyping of Asian people in a lot of popular rap music, which a lot of people just kind of let slide. And this is not to excuse or justify appropriation on either side, or to minimize anyone's feelings about appropriation of their culture, so I don't want to see any of that in my comments. Nor am I trying to imply that all of the things I mentioned are equally problematic, or that black people enjoying anime is equal to your favorite K-pop star saying the N-word. I just want to start a dialogue about this, and add some dimensions to a conversation that I feel is typically very one-sided.
Well, you started it. You started a dialogue, and I want to say, yeah, the N word is not appropriate for anybody of any other race to say. You see what I'm saying? There are certain words in the Japanese culture, the Korean culture, the Chinese culture, the culture from the Philippines, culture from I don't know, Chinese, Japan, that are inappropriate for someone outside of that culture to say. But there's certain things that are okay. So we just like we don't want people saying the N word. There's certain words that we're not going to say to disrespect. We don't want to disrespect anybody. You see what I'm saying? This is a conversation. Y'all know, dude. In the comments, I want to hear what y'all got to say. I love when y'all be in the comments, like going back and forth, because y'all be teaching me.